talked about military and some of the challenges as far as race and treatment was concerned. When I came back from my second tour in Vietnam, I went there as a warrant officer, but 10 days before my second tour was over, I was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the field artillery. I got a direct commission. And as I understand, there were only 60 people during the Vietnam War that got direct commissions to being a commissioned officer. So you could go from
You
being
let that slide in. You didn't tell me about that part. Okay. Because I was kind of thinking warrant officer at
Well,
first.
I was a warrant officer.
So you were a warrant officer.
I was a warrant officer 1, then a warrant officer 2,
Okay.
and then
all
a
right.
second lieutenant.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so I came back and went to field artillery basic course, and then assigned to Fort Rucker as an academic instructor because I'd already been a flight instructor. And during that time, that was in 1970. And it was a time of turmoil in the military where you had black pilots, black soldiers who were in combat. I mean, just open conflict with their officers.
Yeah. I read about that.
They were fragging and, get out in the field shooting them. I mean,
I heard it was very dangerous. Well,
Yeah.
I read that it was very dangerous for lieutenants and second lieutenants back in the day. Well, probably for everybody, but mostly since they were direct.
Yeah, because of the ill treatment, just the bad treatment. And so it was affecting, quote, combat readiness. So at the infantry school, where that was where the problem was worse was among infantry officers and enlisted men. At the infantry school at Fort Benning at the time, the race relations course. I became a race relations instructor. I was already an academic instructor, then I became a race relations instructor. So we had to read a lot of books, which I had read most of them. It's like, okay, I understand this. So then we were to go back to the training centers that the Army had. The Army had 22 training centers, like I was in the aviation school. And you had transportation. So all of those schools sent 2 representatives, a black and a white person, to this course. So we were the military's first race relations instructors, where we talked about race. We talked about how to basically mitigate a lot of the bad situations, and the reality of what was really going on versus what people had been told or what they thought was the case, or what they had been told as a child. So it was about bringing reality to the current situation. So again, I was among the first 44 race relations instructor in all of the U.S. military. Black folks, in terms of you want to talk about liberal or conservative, always been conservative. So, but then you look at the political party system. Now it's being said by one side that they're conservative and the other side is liberal. That's kind of a false flag, because you look at how black people are treated across this country, irrespective of what, quote, political identification the leadership has. It's not always good.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I feel like people are waking up to that more, black people, because there's a lot of questioning now of one party that supposedly traditionally supposedly have been the advocate for,
But you see, that was different. You have the Republican Party in the 1800s that black people gravitated to, okay? And you had the Democrats who were basically pro-slavery. Then that switched, in the 20th century, where the New Deal and all of that. So black people tended to move towards the Democratic Party. Thing is that what black people need to understand is that your vote is about you endorsing people to work for you. And the one thing that I find is that nationally, black people never had an agenda that says, hey, these are the top 3, top 10, top 25 things that we will support you
Yeah.
that are needed in our community. And I don't know this to be a fact, but I'm told that even some representatives would not even put in a budget for federal dollars coming to their communities. So I don't know that to be correct or not. I mean, that's just hearsay.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, why are you elected? What is your purpose? Because politicians, you're constantly running. You're constantly running for re-election, you know, particularly the House of Representatives every 2 years. Now, there are some mayors who were just excellent. And I think of Maynard Jackson, you know, who, you know.
I like Maynard Jackson.
Yeah.
He did a lot.
Yes. And Maynard, one of his philosophies about misdeeds and about, you know, things that you should or should not do. He says, if you're close enough to see the line that you shouldn't cross, you're too close. Back away. And you have a lot of black politicians that feel that they can get in and do what some other politicians will do, but that's not your system. You didn't design it. You don't even know how the game is played. And you set yourself up for failure.
Right. So you witnessed all this, and you were in your, I say in your prime, because you were, you know, as opposed to someone being 10, 11 years old or being, you know, out of it at elderly. You were in your prime, and you've seen all these changes. I mean, there's a lot of changes going on.
Yeah.
A lot of turmoil in that time too. You had the whole Nixon scandal thing going on, all that stuff. Now you're in a civilian job, you're a leader, you got all this military background and all the horrors that you've seen in war. What was your mindset at that time?
Mindset at that time, okay, how can I be successful? I'm still a part of the military because I'm in the National Guard.
National Guard, right. And
let me take care of the people, because most of the people on the shift that I was managing were black. They said, oh, the production is down. So you're not. And the mindset was, hey, you got to push these folks. You know, I said, no. So I would have a meeting beginning of the week. I would pull in about 15 minutes. Hey, here's the industry that we're in. This is what the whole industry picture looks like. This is what our company looks like. Here's what our production facility looks like in terms of production, in terms of whether we, you know, it's up or down, whatever. I'd give them a briefing. And then it's about treating everybody fair. And at times, man, we would, sometimes we did, in terms of the standards, some of those guys, I mean, these black men and women, they would run these machines and produce at 150% of the standard. So it wasn't about the people, it was about how they were treated and respected.
Yes, yeah.
But then I did get put into sales and was sent to California. And I got, when I was in the Georgia Guard, I was asked to give a resume to one of the fellows who was also in, I think he was in the reserves. But he was a salesperson for Hughes Helicopters. And I wound up getting a job interview and offer to get my first civilian flying job with the flight test facility for Hughes Helicopters in California. So again, that was the beginning of my civilian flying career. I was flying commercial until June of this year. Yeah.
Wow.
And I still have a first class medical, but my basic recap of my civilian. So with Hughes Helicopters Flight Test Department, working on the Apache helicopter, because I'd been an attack helicopter pilot and knew and understood some of the nuances there.
Now, is that a company that was associated with Howard Hughes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, I was hired by Summa Corporation, which is Howard Hughes' umbrella company, and I was assigned to the flight test division of Hughes Helicopters.
Now, at this point, Hughes is out, though, right?
No, Hughes was still alive.
Okay.
And I got furloughed from that job when Hughes died because I was being paid directly out of his funds. So, because he wanted people who had experience, because he really wanted to win that contract. So, you know, and they did. And now Now it's this helicopter is being produced right here in Mesa at Boeing helicopter. so, so, so I had that experience, and then when Howard died, I went back to Atlanta and enrolled in Morehouse again. Spent a year there in pre-med, and I decided, I said I could probably be a good doctor, but flying is my passion. So I put resumes out, and my second civilian flying job was with Xerox flying executives and management people around. And then my first airline was Western Airlines, which is now part of Delta. Got furloughed from them, and then second airline was Air California, or Air Cal, which is now part of American. And I found a home at FedEx, and I retired from FedEx as an MD-11 captain.
That's amazing.
Tuskegee Airmen mentors who lived in Atlanta was telling me about this organization that had been formed, the Organization of Black Airline Pilots. And I wasn't an airline pilot at the time, but I said I came, you know. Yes, so I went to Atlanta and I joined the Organization of Black Airline Pilots, even though I wasn't an airline pilot and you had to be at the time. But anyway, I've been associated with the Organization of Black Airline Pilots, which is now known as the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals since 1976. The second meeting.
So when you were active, and even going back to your early active days, were you aware of this organization back then?
No. Until Charles Dryden told me about the organization, I didn't know that it existed.
Okay.
Because it was formed in March, and then I think it was August that they met in Atlanta. And with OBAP, I became the secretary, vice president, president.
Again, thought leadership.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go.
Yeah. And under my leadership, we, with the president of Western Michigan University, we formed the first ab initio program. Ab initio is from the beginning. You had British Airways, had Aer Lingus, and Emirates training pilots to become first officers at their airlines, and they were training them at Western Michigan University. I'm saying, well, hey, you have black young people who want to become pilots, who went to a school and thought that they were going to get that education, and it wasn't offered because flight program at Tuskegee went away. You know, it wasn't there. You know, Tennessee State used to have one. It went away. So it's like, hey, you have qualified young black aviation aspirants. Let's form a program for them to get trained. So we talked to the airline, said, okay, hey, you interview these people as if you're hiring them as a pilot. You test them. Now you train them. Because at that time, it was British Airways who had the certification to do the training. And of course, we got some pushback. You know, it was like, you know, well, we have an entire country to, you know, population pool to draw from. You know, you sure that there's a segment of this country? You know, it was that kind of thing. You know, it was like, you know, you black folk, you know, y'all can't do this.
You're right. Yeah.
So, but at the time, we formed a team. We were running our own flight training programs anyway, but you know, we pay for young people to go to get flight training at various places. We had a pilot development program. Aaron Gould was running that, and then you had Lonnie Robinson, who was in training at Piedmont. So we got those individuals who were part of OBAP, but yet working for other airlines, and they used their expertise to form the core of the program at Western Michigan. So you had young people who came in, went through the testing, went through the training, and they came out as first officers on 737s. So that's the first ab initio program. And now you have, and following in that model that OBAP started with Western Michigan University and with the support of the Kellogg Foundation and the Transportation Department, now you have airlines investing in something they should have been investing in a long time ago. United has this program out at Goodyear, training pilots. American has a program. JetBlue has a program. And I don't know about Delta, but Delta was our partner in the program at Western Michigan.
So they've adopted these programs into their companies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But it was OBAP that did the lead. And also another flight organization, Tuskegee Airmen. I was chapter president of the Arizona chapter for a couple of years, and that was during the time they got the Congressional Gold Medal, and got transportation for those who could make it to DC, and for those who couldn't make it to DC, we held ceremonies here at the state capitol, and issued the Congressional Gold Medals to those who didn't make it to DC for the ceremony there.
Now, throughout your flying career, how many Tuskegee Airmen would you say you met? I mean, those that were alive at the time.
Yeah, hundreds, because I would go to their conventions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you were in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Because we only, being a civilian, you only hear about the few, a recent time, of course, because of time, the few that were around. But
Yeah. Well, the thing
it's
is,
hard to imagine that there were hundreds of them.
yes,
Is what I'm saying.
yes. There were 996 graduates from that program.
Wow. See, that's the story we don't really hear
Yeah.
about. We hear about the few that are remaining.
Yeah. Well, not many remaining now. My lady and I just had dinner with one of the two remaining Tuskegee Airmen who actually deployed to Europe and North Africa, and George Hardy, Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy. We had dinner with him a few weeks ago, and he lives in Sarasota, Florida. But he and another gentleman whose last name is Coleman is two that actually deployed, and then there's the Tuskegee Airmen won the first gunnery competition that the Air Force held in 1948.
Wow.
But the Air Force magazine doesn't start recognizing the winners until 1950.
And would they have put them in there?
Well, they were left out, and I don't know whether they've corrected that or not. But so you just look at the excellence. I mean, the demand was there. People rise to the occasion.
Yes.
When you really want to get something accomplished, you put your mind to it. You can get it done. I mean, there are going to be obstacles no matter what. The challenges and the obstacles are in life to make you better to reach the goal that you say you want to reach.
Yes.
And some people look at obstacles, oh, well, that's in the way and they wouldn't let me do this. Well, okay. If that's what you accept, then yes, that's going to be your fate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you kept yourself busy. You still, to date, you're still flying. And you've seen a lot of changes, right, throughout the years.
Yeah.
How do you have time to immerse yourself in reading?
Well, grew up reading,
Yeah, but you.
Well,
I'm not talking about just a regular every now and then. You immerse yourself. You still seek knowledge. You still pursue. We were talking before we started recording, and you went right into it. That's very inspiring, to say the least, because not many people do that, especially people who have an illustrious career as yours.
Well, I used to read a book a week. I'm not doing that now, but I'd read a fiction and a nonfiction. Just kind of balance things out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a book a week.
So it's just like walking to you. It's
Yeah.
just second nature.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite subjects?
Of course, aviation. yeah, that history, particularly Black history, and when I say Black history, I'm talking about African centered history. You know, going back to ancient times as far as I can go back. You know, just some of the magnificent things that were done from the medical instruments. You know, they talk about Hippocrates being the father of medicine. Well, no, that was happening in Africa, particularly in the Nile Valley, long before the Greeks ever, were doing it. So, just and global history, because I look at, for example, you look at countries that got their independence in the 60s. Look at Singapore versus most African countries. It's the leadership that made the difference.
Yes.
It's how you thought about it. It was about community.
Yes.
But then, if you get somebody who's in a position of power and all the power kind of flows around that person, you don't have community to make sure that everybody's taken care of.
Yeah.
I mean, even the pension plan in Singapore was laid out for everybody.
Wow.
There's going to be X amount of your income for your retirement.
Yeah.
I mean, so it is about the leadership.
Yeah, because around the late 60s, early 70s, you had a lot of those countries getting their independence in around different countries in Africa.
Well, they changed colonial leadership.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. You're right. Yeah.
So the thing is, when we talk about freedom, if that's that's the goal, then okay, that needs to be the goal. That there are enough resources for everybody to be fed, everybody to be housed, everybody to be well educated in this world. There are enough resources.
How do you balance? Because I mean, let's be real. You having a career as a pilot, that you are, even today, you are a minority in that field. How do you balance your passion for Black history and knowing all that you know politically and where we've come from and where we're going? You haven't subscribed to some of the things we talked about earlier, like, just, assimilating, if you will, and still, excelling in that world that still have those challenges and excelling on the top level. How do you balance that for yourself?
It's not a balance. It's just my life.
Okay.
Hey, look, it's something I wanted to do. It's my passion. That I've pursued it. I've been blessed to have the opportunities that I have. So you take advantage of that. But then I don't,
But you still stay rooted in.
Well, of course. I mean, what am I going to do? Deny who I am?
Yeah.
No. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
Well, I think that you can teach us all a lesson about that, because a lot of us do struggle with that. I mean, we have these conversations a lot about, those things. Like some people, like we've talked about earlier, people feel like they've arrived and, and
I call it stunting, man. Hey, I've arrived, I got this, I'm driving this, I live here, I live there. It's like, okay, good on you, okay.
I didn't expect you to use that. I didn't expect you to say it's stunting. All right.
Show up in the wrong neighborhood.
There you go. That's funny. So, what would you like people, of all the amazing things that you've done, and I mean, we've covered on, I feel like we've only scratched the surface, but we did go through a brief history of your life. What would you like people to know about you today?
Well, I would describe myself as a servant leader. That's it. I see something that needs to be done, I help when I can, And, the thing is that I tell people that I've had some wonderful successes, but I've had some fantastic failures too. You know, uh, so the thing is, just learn and keep going. Just keep moving, and be clear about what it is you want to do. Don't try to figure out what can't be figured out.
Well, I think that this has been more than what I was bargaining for. This has been a blessing for me to sit down and talk with you, and for you to educate me and enlighten me the way you have. And I hope that we can do this again. Mr. Clovis, I think that you are a treasure.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
And as a black man, as a man, and as a black man, talking to someone who has been there, done there, and seen it, because we younger guys, we sit around and talk a bunch of stuff, and we philosophize about everything, right? But to actually sit and talk with someone who actually been there and done it, and bounce off that and get to absorb that knowledge, is truly a blessing.
Thank you. One thing I'd like to point out, in this August of this year, I was presented the Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award.
Oh, so now you're bragging, Mr. Clovis.
No, I'm not bragging.
I'm just teasing you. Tell us all about it, for real.
Well, it's for well, I've been flying for 56 years, but one of my proteges just insisted that I apply for the award, and I was granted the award, and it's for being professional and for safe flying and
That's
promoting aviation excellence.
So 56 years of flying. What is the longest time a person has flown professionally?
I don't know.
It can't be that much more than
Well,
56
yeah,
years.
it can be. It can be, because there are some pilots that I've known of, a few pilots who are 100 years old and still flying.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
they're still
I
capable.
thought there was a time limit.
For the depends upon the airlines. Now it's 65. It used to be 60.
Oh,
now they're pushing for 67.
Okay.
I think in some countries it's 70 years old.
Okay.
But there are pilots who 100. For example, Alfred Anderson, the chief pilot for the primary flight school at Tuskegee, he was flying well into his senior years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And which I think Chief had the second highest numbers of flight hours of any pilot, if I'm not mistaken. And both men were from Alabama. Chief lived in Tuskegee, and then there was a white gentleman who also lived in Alabama, who flew the power lines. I think he had more hours than Chief. But as long as I have the competence, the skills and the health to do it, I'll do it. But the one thing that I'm not going to put myself in danger. I'm not going to endanger anybody else.
Yeah.
So when I know that I shouldn't do it, or something happens that says, hey, it's time not to do it anymore, I'm done.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm done.
I understand.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Clovis, thank you so much for this time. It's truly been enriching, and I know we're going to continue doing this again.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you thinking enough of my story to come and sit with me and interview me. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And we both have to thank Thomas Claiborne.
Yes, we do. Yes, because he's saying, hey, you need to see him. You need to talk to him.
And he said the same thing to me about you. He's like, you need to get with him. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that happened. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, we got through it. All right.